Okay, well, thank you. And let's go on and we'll talk about forgiveness. It will be our final part of these 2016 High Holy Days. Now, the highest level of forgiveness comes from the divine source of mercy. And the divine source recognizes the holy and the good equally with the profane and the evil. All is measured on the scales of divine justice, and there is a purpose to evil and destructive tendencies. We don't always see things, but everything fits together. There is a clear distinction between good and evil, and nobility and debasement. Absolute truth demands we confront our paths in word and thought and deed. We have an opportunity, my friends, to transform and rectify all our flaws. Human society has to be based on a just way of life, led by our aspirations to holiness and purity. It starts with you. If you think of nothing else, ask yourself, what's the worst thing that happened to you this year? What did you do to cause it? We create everything that happens in our lives. We set it all in motion. Who do you need to seek forgiveness from, and who do you need to forgive? So let's talk about forgiveness. It is the mechanism God put in place for man to live in perfection, to not feel guilt, to not be in judgment. Now, there's as many ways to ask forgiveness as there are people to apologize to and situations to apologize for. We each experience pain differently. And as the Talmud says in Pesachim 54b, no one can know what is in the heart of another. Now, we need to try to learn what's in other people's hearts, but we can't always know. Now, that is a great Talmud tract talking about 7 things concealed from people, including the day of their death, the day of their consolation from worries, the exactness of judgment, what other people think, how we will earn a living, when the Messiah will return, and when evil will end. Although I have met some who do have answers for many of those questions. But let's return to forgiveness. When you apologize to someone, do so with as much understanding of how that person was offended as possible. And to do that, do not imagine how you would have felt if it had happened to you. What you imagine as minimal hurt could be enormous to someone else. To know how someone feels, you have to ask. Listen to what they say. Validate their feelings. We are all one, but we are not all the same. Sometimes people approach this season, and I've seen emails that say this: if I happen to offend you, then please accept my apology. Well, why bother? This is a literal fulfillment of the halakhic requirement, but it fails completely the halakhic intent. Remember, intent, kavanah, is the key that opens the door. Sometimes words are not enough to rebuild trust. Action might be necessary, but it may sometimes necessitate a similar event which may or may not occur. So you just got to do your best to improve your conduct in whatever areas you can in your relationship with that person and allow healing to come naturally. We too often miss the mark when it comes to communication. Inappropriate words get us into trouble, and words lie in the ear of the beholder. We often think we send a clear message when the other party takes our words as something completely different. Good teshuvah, good relationships, insist we cultivate the humility to see things from the other's viewpoint. Confession to our friend is not the end. It is the beginning. It would be far better to say something like, I know I have wronged you in not doing X, and I'm really sorry about that. I'll try to do better in the year to come. I'm sorry is a profound admission that most people cannot make. It acknowledges our covenant with the person we've wronged, as well as our covenant with God. My friends, that is the hardest part, acknowledging what you have done wrong, to yourself, to God, and to the person you have wronged. It is suggested that if you cover up wrongdoing, you will not achieve full repentance. I don't know. I cannot speak to that. What I do know, and what I suggest, is that there must be 3 component parts to asking forgiveness: sincerity, accountability, and vulnerability. Sincerity is not in the words you use, but in the authenticity of the emotions you convey. Accountability is not about blaming others, but in taking responsibility for your own actions. Each of us forges our own destiny. And when we go wrong, we need to assume responsibility and make amends. And that is with others, with God, and with ourselves. Finally, forgiveness is a vulnerable experience. It can be embarrassing and awkward. If you lack the courage to expose your flaws, you remain stuck in the quagmire of ego and enslaved by the superficiality of your false sense of self. By speaking the truth, albeit shameful, you revel in the full majesty of life. And it is so important to validate the other person. And of course, one of the more interesting and unique features of this holy day is Vidui, sin confession, highlighted by the Alchet prayer, the confession of sins prayer, comprised again of over 44 confessions and one statement at a time. We have sinned knowingly. We've eaten forbidden foods. We have robbed. We've been arrogant. We have caused corruption, injustice, and iniquity. We have extorted and exploited other people. We took things which do not belong to us. We've been jealous and envious. We were not grateful, happy, and satisfied. And on and on. And you might be astounded, my friends, at where that actually comes from. But what it is we all do it, and we stand there and we pound our left part of our chest as we say these things. And again, many of these things, we just say it, but it has no bearing. So is your intent really there if you read these things and say, well, I didn't do any of these things? Focus on the ones you've done. It's also the original time, and subsequently it became one of 4 times during the year we communally observe the Mourner's Kaddish to say goodbye to those we have lost. Yid Gadol, Yid Kadash Shmei Rabbah, B'amad Divrach Yerchutei, V'yamlich Malchutei. Glorified and sanctified be God's great name, the world that He created according to His will. May He establish His kingdom in your lifetimes and in your days and in the lifetime of the entire family of Israel, speedily and soon. Now say Amen. May His great name be blessed forever and ever. We've all lost loved ones. All of us. Our souls connect through the echoes of eternity, and those connections do last forever. It is a chance to say goodbye again and keep them in our thoughts, our hearts, our souls. And let us once again join together as the 3 books of life are sealed for one of the oldest and most moving of all the litanies of the festival. Our Father, our King, again the Avenu Malkeinu. Join me, everybody. Asay imanu tzedakah v'chesed. Asay imanu tzedakah v'chesed v'choshienu v'enu melkeinu v'enu. Father, our King, have mercy on us. Answer our prayers. Though we are undeserving, show us your righteousness and kindness, and save us. As the shofar, the great horn blowing, brings an end to our 10 days of review. Thank you, friends, for joining me for these high holy days. Ketiva v'chatima tova, may you all be inscribed and sealed for a good year. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Thank you for sharing your space with me. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Blessings to you all.